Well, to try to make sense of the events surrounding Khashoggi's disappearance, we're joined now by Fatih. He's the executive director of the Turkish Arab Media Association, which has been leading protests outside the Saudi Consulate. In London, we have Daud Abdullah. He's the director of Middle East Monitor. And completing our panel in Washington, D.C. is Ahmed. He's the director of the Institute of Gulf Affairs. Now, we reached out to several Saudi guests, most of whom declined. The one who we did have booked in pulled out moments before this recording. I'm tremendously irritated by that because we would have at least had the opportunity to hear from someone defending the Saudi perspective, the Saudi government's perspective. We don't have that right now. So, gentlemen, I'm looking forward to this discussion. So many questions, so much mystery surrounding this. Let me ask you, Fatih, to begin with, Jamal Khashoggi, did they kill him inside the embassy?
Now, I have two answers for this, but let me thank you in the beginning. Thank you very much to have us in here as Turkish Arabic Media Network. I have to answer. As friend of Jamal, I will say no, they didn't kill him. Because no one can do that kind of barbaric application to a human, even in my dream. No one can think about it. But as a former journalist, I will say most probably they killed him. Because there's no other explanation. We are 100% sure he didn't came out.
From the Turkish authorities, the police and others, are they quite certain that this is what was done?
They are very certain. And we are spending our last 5 days. We were here, and we find enough time to observe the area. And as far as we understand, there is no place to hide a body in a trunk and going out. There's no garage. Actually, there's a garage door, but they are not using it. And there's no place to hide him in a black car or something. And as the surveillance camera, there's no box came out. A human body can fit around 190 centimeters tall. He was a tall guy. Now we find a conclusion that they killed him and they bring him out with an outrageous and barbaric way. We are not sure how they do this. Actually, as a friend of him, I'm not sure he's dead or not because I didn't see him again. It's a very sad thing for us. It's very sad for me personally, also for his fiancée, Hatice.
Of course.
We all shocked. Hatice is she waits him 5 hours in the outside without anybody. We came to her after 5 hours. She was waiting there. She was waiting. She's looking at the door. Still, it's shocking.
Daud Abdullah, another friend of Jamal's, help me understand whether he feared for his life, whether he thought that he might be in trouble with the Saudi government to the extent that he might actually lose his life.
Well, he did have some concerns about, the visit, that particular visit to the consulate. And that was demonstrated in the fact that he gave his fiancée the telephone and told her, if I don't return after 3 hours or a certain period, then, you should call the authorities and raise an alert. So there was concern on his behalf as to whether or not, it would be a cordial visit to the embassy.
Yeah. Dawood, do you fear the worst?
I think after 1 week, tomorrow would be 1 week, and given the length of time, it appears, that something sinister has taken place. The fact, however, is that we don't have any evidence to substantiate or claim that, he's dead, unless, people have some evidence. But the thing is, you see, my analysis of it is that when he went in there, they may have attempted to kidnap him and extradite him to Saudi Arabia, and he would have resisted. In the course of doing this, and given the fact that there were so many other people around who came in very conveniently to the meeting, they may have tried to subdue him. And in the process of doing that, exerted undue physical pressure on him, which may have led to his death, either by heart attack or whatever.
Right.
We don't know.
I mean, that could be plausible. We just don't know. And this is the thing. We do this program stating very clearly, despite what some authorities have said to journalists and so forth, have said to Fatih and others, we don't know. Some Turkish authorities have said off the record, some have said on the condition of anonymity that he's dead. They dismembered him. There was a 15-man crack team, hit squad that was sent here. We just don't know for sure, but things do seem to be really grave and really ominous. Ali Al-Ahmed, I was looking forward to you and Salman Al-Ansari locking horns, if you like, over this issue. Salman Al-Ansari was our guest who was booked from the Saudi American Public Relations Affairs Committee, and he pulled out at the last minute. Be that as it may, it's unfortunate. Let me give you what Mohammed bin Salman said, the Crown Prince. He said, my understanding is he, Khashoggi, entered and he got out after a few minutes or 1 hour. I'm not sure. We are ready to welcome the Turkish government to go and search our premises. The premises are sovereign territory, but we will allow them to enter and search and do whatever they want to do. We have nothing to hide. Ali, are you willing to give him the benefit of the doubt and to believe him at all?
I mean, you cannot really believe a politician in these circumstances. You have to take everything they say with a grain of salt. Having said that, it is not beyond the Saudi government to do such a thing. They have done it before. They have kidnapped and killed, dissidents and even loyalists who, turned against them. So I would believe what the Turkish government is indicating, because they have the best information, and they know if there was 2 planes that came. And I hope, and I call on the Turkish government. I have been to Turkey before. I visited, and I know what they do. When you come in, you have a visa. There are photos and so on. And there are planes that I hope their numbers would be registered or made public, so people could know what time they land and what time they left and where did they go. So that is important for us to know. And I can tell you, I think he possibly, most likely, has been killed. I hope not, to be honest, but regardless of what he thought of us and the relationship, but it's a very sad and
right.
very it's a horrible crime against anyone who said something or turned even against his longtime patrons. It's not a nice thing to do to anyone.
It's interesting that you say this, right? Longtime patrons, because for a long time he was a staunch defender of the system, not necessarily certain individuals and so forth, but he was hardly the type of person who was calling for revolution. Ali, right? Yes, over the years he criticized more and more and more. However, someone like you, for example, I've spoken to you many times on this program and other programs, you say far harsher things about the Saudi monarchy, about the king and the princes and so forth, than someone like Jamal Khashoggi had ever said. So if it's true, what does this say to you that someone who is a critic, as mild, if you like, I hate that term, but as mild as Jamal Khashoggi, if someone like him could be killed in the consulate, what does that say for everybody else, especially Saudis, who criticize their government?
I think he's in a greater danger. I tell you why. Because, it is in my blood, it's in my genetic that, we criticize the ruling family. My uncle, who's dead now, was in jail in 1969. So we have a long history in our family, in our immediate family and expanded family, of opposing the government. He, however, was a loyalist, and he continued to be in some way, because last September he on TV said he has an allegiance to the king, but he turned against the person in charge, and he was still having conversations and contacts to other members in the ruling family who are marginalized. To the Saudi government, it's important to stop this, what I call deluge of defection. So it is a message not to us, long time or lifelong dissidents, but to loyalists who turn against the regime, not the system. So it's important for the Mohammed bin Salman, who's probably ordered this hit, to send a message to his followers and loyalists that no one should think about defecting. No one should emulate what Jamal Khashoggi did, because they will end up like this. And I think that was calculated. They knew it, because I knew from he was worried. He told people he was worried, but at the same time, I think there was space for him to come back. He could have had been called by the king, like he used to be called over the years, and told, come back, you're safe, and so on. And I think he would have accepted it. But it was an opportunity to send a message to the followers of Mohammed bin Salman that no one should double cross us, because we will deal with them in this harsh manner. And that was all calculated to send that message,
right,
which is a strong message.
And I'm certain that all of us here in this conversation are hoping that he shows up tomorrow and he says, listen, I'm alive, right?
I hope
and again,
so.
Yeah, and again, we all
I hope so, despite our differences.
Certainly. And I appreciate that, Ali. If it's true, Fatih, this is Saddam-level thuggery, right, in terms of dealing with dissent. What would justice mean for you and all Jamal's other friends and anyone who cares about rule of law and the ability to openly criticize the things that you don't like about your government?
We are, as friends of him, firstly we will ask an exception from the Saudi side. They should accept their story, their crime. First, we have to know they did this. No one should left us alone in this structure. But as legal structure, we don't know yet what shall we do. But we are very certain that it's an attack to whole free world, whole free journalists in the world. And no one should dare that kind of thing again in the future. We want to, if Saudi did this, we want to make them alone in the international era. And maybe America should pull their support on the MBS government. They should be alone in the international area. But as a Muslim, as a man who lives in Jeddah for 7 years, my son born in Jeddah, I'm very sad for Saudi-Turkish relation also. Because Saudi Arabia is a very precious country. Its soil is very precious, holy for us. They have Mecca and Medina. If we cut our relations with them, how those tens of thousands of people will go to Umrah, will go to Hajj in the future? It's a big crisis for Turks. Someone should fix this problem. Someone should end this administration, which is threatening all the world.
Daud, Abdullah, if this is true, and I have to keep on asking that and saying that, if this is true, has Mohammed bin Salman crossed a line that is impossible to reverse from? And is it something that the entire international community has to respond to?
I do think so. I think if we look at what happened in the United Kingdom earlier this year, when the Russian intelligence agents poisoned individuals, dissidents from Russia here in the United Kingdom, our government mounted a massive diplomatic campaign, which resulted in the expulsion of diplomats from a number of European countries. And the process of retribution against the Russians have continued. It was not just expulsion, but sanctions were heightened. So I think, the crime that was committed on Turkish territory can be regarded as an international crime in the sense that it violated the sovereign territory of the Turkish people. And there ought to be consequences. No, it can go either to the International Court of Justice to begin with, as well as through, diplomatic pressure, through the various governments, as we saw in the case of the Russian poisonings in the UK. So there must be accountability. Mm-hmm. I do appreciate the fact that there's a special relationship between the Turkish people and the Holy Lands, and the authorities in Turkey today are really in a very difficult position. But they also must let it be known that a line has been crossed. And no one should ever, take the liberty to commit such gross acts of inhumanity and violation of Turkish sovereign territory in the future, whoever he may be, whether it's in, the King of Arabia or any other republic or kingdom across the region.
Ali Al-Ahmed, you live in DC. I know you. I've interviewed you, as I say, over the years. It's sometimes hard, given the special relationship with the United States, for someone like you to convince American congressmen or senators that maybe their relationship with the Saudis is not the healthiest one, or maybe they give Saudi Arabia too much of a free pass. With something like this, would a lot of them be more open to listening to someone like you?
I don't know, to be honest, because I've been doing this since 2001, and it's been a very uphill climb. And the line is that if the Al Saud goes, they will have Osama bin Laden, and that has been basically the American narrative, which is not only limited to the politicians, but also all those think tanks. I call them fake think tanks because they never really address the issue. The real issue, and they avoid talking about the problems in that country. So I think it's not going to change. The attacks of September 11 didn't change it, so I don't think this issue will change it. And knowing that the U.S. government actually went beyond its legal even space to silence people like myself. And with supporting the Saudis, and they almost crossed the line. So this is not going to change much. I know it's going to be in the media for a week or two, but it's not going to actually change much, especially under the Trump administration. It did not change it under the Obama, which was supposedly most likely. It will definitely not. And you can see, I think Mr. Daud is right. With the UK, incident with the Russians and the Americans have not said anything about this really, and this is a NATO member country in Turkey, and this crime happened there, so they should at least make some stronger statements. The UK and the US are the guarantor of the survivability of the Saudi monarchy, and that will not change over one man. And I understand Turkish reservation and cautious step on this, because Turkey has, I would say, greater issues here with the economy and the economic pressure on it from outside. So I really understand and fully the Turkish position, and I feel for them, because it's not easy for Turkey to deal with this with this issue at this time.
Right.
There is no support from the Americans or the British.
Well, there has been no clear-cut evidence presented either way. At the moment, we just have the worst fears of everyone, from those outside of the embassy every day, yes, to those watching from afar as well. If this is true, it is almost unfathomable. It's an almost unfathomable act of thuggery, which will undoubtedly possibly have international ramifications. We'll be watching this story very closely. And as I said before, a lot of us hope Jamal Khashoggi shows up tomorrow, the day after, and says, no, actually, I'm alive. But
for the sake of his daughters,
absolutely,
I hope so.
Yes. Okay, we'll revisit this story very, very soon here on the Newsmakers. But for the moment, I have to move on. Fatih, Daud, Abdullah, and Ali Al-Ahmed, I thank you all for joining us.